Good evening all. Hello everybody. Hope you're all doing well and having a great Monday evening. Welcome to ImPossible conversation. The conversation ordinary people share their stories and journey to inspire others. Tonight my guest is Polston. He's the founder of Elite Network and Make It Happen, and he's done so many incredible things. So I would like to bring Will now, and Will share his journey and how he does what he does. Thank you all. Hello, Will.
Hi Suki, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very good indeed.
Thank you very much for taking some time to be my guest tonight.
My pleasure.
Could you tell us about yourself first?
Yeah.
Because some people know you and some people might not know you.
Yeah, I just want to see if I can get comments up. Here we go. Cool.
Yep.
So yeah, hi, my name's Polston. I'm a mindset strategist. I have the pleasure of working with business owners, with ambitious professionals to get great results, live an amazing lifestyle, and make a difference along the way.
So what's your story? Well, why do you do what you're doing?
Why do I do what I do? Great question. So I'll give you the slightly longer version, so people are aware of what's going on. But I grew up with a belief that money equaled happiness. So growing up, I sort of I went off on a tangent thinking money equaled happiness. Did whatever I could to try and earn as much money as I could in a variety of different ways. So just sort of going back a few steps. So where that kind of born from, I haven't really got some of the typical. Well, no, let's stick to the slightly shorter version. So. Yeah, I grew up with this belief that money equaled happiness, and then when I was 22 years old, I had what I call my lightning moment, which was this big realization. Actually, it was nothing to do with money, and it was all to do. My drive for money had actually come from as a result of wanting to make a difference to my mum and dad. That was really kind of what it was born from. But at the time, it was created in different ways. So I saw it as different things. That was really what it was about. And then, yeah, from then to realise that was the case and set out on a mission so that I could empower people to benefit themselves, their family, their friends, their community, society, have a positive ripple effect as a result of them becoming the best version of them. So that was why and that is why I now do what I do, is I want you to be able to achieve what you're capable of, so that you have heightened feelings of self-belief, self-confidence, fulfillment, achieve great results, have an impact on others, and get to live a really cool, fulfilled life whilst you're doing it.
How many people do you want to empower?
So my mission in life is I want to empower 1 billion people. So a lot of people say to me, well, that's 1 billion people is quite a lot of people. It used to be a million people, and then I remember waking up one Friday and I was having sort of a moment of inspiration. And I thought, no, it's not big enough. I wasn't, the way that actually come about was I wasn't moving as fast forward as I would like. And I said to myself, well, what would I be doing differently today if the goal was bigger? So if the goal was 1 billion people, what would I be doing differently? And it made me think differently as a result of doing that. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna just add 3 zeros, because what's 3 zeros at the end of the day? And set the goal as 1 billion people. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that I'm going to do that by myself. I don't think I'm going to work with 1 billion people one-on-one. I mean, who knows? Maybe I will, but I'm not naive enough to think that that's going to be the case. And so I'm a big believer in collaboration over competition. So can I be a catalyst in some way, whether that be someone listening to a podcast, whether that be someone coming to an event that we put on with another speaker, and that speaker inspires them to go on and do something great and have that ripple effect. And that's what it is that I'm trying to do. That's the difference that I'm trying to make in my journey. And what is
Fantastic. Fantastic. How do you know when you've achieved it?
I won't. So a wise man once said to me, we'll have a mission in life that's the equivalent of trying to empty the sea with a spoon. And
Mm-hmm.
what I took from that was, have a purpose in life that's so great that you may never achieve it, so that you never have to have that feeling of what's next. And for me, I'm happy with that, because I'm not putting my feelings of fulfillment on achieving the end result. So it's not like I'll be
Mm-hmm.
happy when, like so many people, they say, I'll be happy when I achieve X, Y, or Z. And I lived like that for a long time. I was very, very materialistic. Don't get me wrong, I still like nice things now, but I used to base my happiness on the car I bought or the clothes I bought and things like that. And don't get me wrong, they do make me feel, I still like those nice things, but
Mm-hmm.
those things, you might have a dopamine hit for a short period of time, and then that soon wears off. So for me now, it's not about happiness, it's about fulfillment. What can I be fulfilled in and do every day that I wake up with energy wanting to do? And for me, there's nothing better
Mm-hmm.
than being able to have an impact on other people. And the way I choose to do that is empowering them through a variety of different forms. People help people in lots of different ways. And for me, I like doing it in something that I am particularly passionate about, which is mindset.
Mm-hmm. So because when you discovered money doesn't bring happiness and it is just materialistic thing, so you could have gone many different ways to help people and get ripple effect by doing something else, completely different thing. Why personal development?
That's a really good question. So um, the reason for personal development for me, so the actual moment, so I talk about specific moments in my life, were I was at an event. It was 2013. It was a UPW, Unleash the Power Within event with Tony Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there because I just wanted to be motivated to make more money. That was the reason why I decided to go. And it was on, if I remember correctly, the third day, and he shared his Thanksgiving story. So if you're not familiar with Tony's Thanksgiving story, go on YouTube and watch it. But essentially, it was about how his dad made certain decisions that then gave him the drive in life to go on and do what he wants to do. Now you've got to remember, when I was at UPW 6 years ago this year, this guy, there was a room of 5,000 to 6,000 people, and he made me feel so good. He made me feel unstoppable because
Mm-hmm.
of this thing that happened to him years gone by to do with his dad. And I could really relate, I could really relate, albeit the concept was slightly different. I could really, really relate. And I was like, he's made me feel that good. I want to be able to do that for other people. And if his story is almost identical to mine, then
Uh-huh.
I've got every reason to, if that story gave him enough drive, inspiration, passion, determination to do what he's done over the last 4 decades and impact people in the way that he's impacted people, which has enabled him by impacting people. He's lived a great result. He gets great results. He gets to
Mm-hmm.
do lots of cool things. Then why wouldn't I want to do that? That was my sort of view on it all.
That's very interesting because when you mentioned about his dad made him to do that, not like gave him the ambition to become maybe a motivational speaker or what he does now. But then, have you got any, because was it just you decided to go to personal development, or is there like anything runs in your family that very supportive and encouraging that kind of affected who you are now? Obviously, it's everything, the family affects who you are now, but in the area you are in and stuff.
Yeah, so it's a really good question actually. So I've got two uncles that I call my uncles. I've got my uncle Mark and my uncle Steve. One's a billionaire and one's a multi-millionaire. They're not my blood uncles, but they're my dad's best mates. And
Mm-hmm.
I was always very inspired by those guys. They really, really did inspire me. And although it wasn't people encouraging me to do personal development per se, having those as
Mm-hmm.
role models was definitely an
Mm-hmm.
inspiration. And So these days I'm involved in NLP in quite a big way, and a big part of NLP, you can almost say that NLP is underpinned by something called modeling, and I just modeled what they were doing in lots of different ways, and I've gone on to model lots of successful people. And again, I say it like that because success is subjective. And yeah, I use those. So no one proactively encouraged me in my family to do personal development, but I did have role models that I aspired to be. That's a given, yeah.
Right. That's
I tell you, did I
fantastic to
inspire to
know.
be? I actually did. I inspire to be them. I didn't inspire. I wasn't inspired to be them, but they inspired me. It's probably the best way of putting it, because of their lifestyles, material things, what I perceived them to be. So I perceived them to be very happy, perceived them to be very charismatic, perceived them to be very confident, and they got to do some cool stuff. So yeah, I aspired towards that for sure.
Right, that sounds great, because I've recently been reading the Think and Grow Rich, and it said people kind of resent towards rich people, and when you
People what?
admire, kind of resent,
Resent,
they think,
yeah,
resent,
yeah.
and they think they
Excuse
just
me.
like, oh, bless you.
Excuse me.
So if you admire them and then learn from them and study them, there's like more chance you becoming successful, rather than just like, oh, we don't need that much money, and it's completely different mindset, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I Think and Grow Rich is a great book, Napoleon Hill. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend that you read it. Um, there's a huge amount to be said for having masterminds. Like Napoleon Hill pretty much coined the term mastermind in Think and Grow Rich, and um, there's so much power in learning from other people. Without a doubt, is being able to learn from other people. The wisest people have learned from other people. They've learned from their mistakes. Like there's no doubt that we learn from mistakes. That's an absolute given. But if you have the ability to learn from other people's mistakes, then you can get to where you want to get to quicker. I'm not saying that you have to do everything exactly the same way that everyone does it. I like to make a lot of mistakes my own. Sometimes that's my ego that kicks in, and sometimes it's my naivety, and I'm aware of the fact that sometimes it's both. But yeah, being able to be around and learn from other people is definitely something that you can gain a huge amount of insight from, without a doubt.
Yeah, when you're talking about the mistakes, learning from mistakes, personally, I believe no one's mistakes are same. Even that's exactly the same thing, because people look at it from different ways, and they do take different actions. And learning from other people's mistake is just a bit questionable, just for me personally. But like learn from your own mistake, because you know what you've done and what the environment at that time was.
Yeah, I mean, I quite often refer this back to mentors, right? So the difference between mentoring and coaching, let's just start with that. So a lot of people have a misunderstanding of what coaching is, and I blame sport for that. So if you take football, for example, a football coach will say, pass the ball like this, shoot the ball like that. When this happens, do this. When that happens, do that. It's all very directed. So anyone that tells, advises, or consults for you is not a coach, they're a mentor in the traditional coaching sense. And in terms of, there's nothing wrong with mentors. I've got lots of mentors myself, both direct and indirect, but I don't want someone to tell me how I should be living my life. Like that's for me where the whole schooling system is broken and has been for years, is because we've been brought up in a way in the schooling system is to do something that was created in the industrial age. We're not in the industrial age anymore. So where we were expecting between right and wrong and things like that, which are ultimately moral. It's about coming back to identifying what it is that is right for you. And by being able to do that, you're only ever going to know that is by knowing or identifying what it is that you most want to do. And then you're right, that I'm a big believer in that there are no mistakes in terms of there's always a blessing that can come from a mistake. But that said, I personally, there's things that I desire, and if I can get to those sooner rather than later, then I'm going to want to do that. Why would I make life harder for myself? So if I can learn from other people that have done certain things, personally, I think that's a wise move, rather than
Right.
trying to
Okay.
always blaze the trail. You can always blaze your own trail, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Always blaze your own trail. Every single one of us is 7.4, 7.8, whatever the update figure is, billion people on this world. Every single person has a different set of values, and those values that you have will ultimately determine what you desire your destiny to be, what your end goal would be. And that's why no one else can ever tell you how your life should be. People try to, and we have belief systems that are imposed on us from our parents, our teachers, social idealisms, religions of how we should live our life. But anytime you're ever using language like should, ought to, must, that is a projection of somebody else's values on you rather than your own,
Mhm.
generally.
Exactly. Right. Because being personal development, it's very individual thing, isn't it?
That's why it's called personal development, not group development.
Yeah, that's why it's, yeah, exactly. So, because you are, because everything, no, like most of the thing you do is about personal development, make it happen, late network, but then you play hockey.
Yeah, I play ice
It's a
hockey. Yeah,
team
yeah,
sport, right?
yeah. It
Could
is.
you tell us about your hobby, and then I'll bring another question out at the
Yeah,
end. Yeah.
so
Why is it
I
ice
personally,
hockey?
why is it ice
Why is
hockey?
ice hockey? Yeah.
Great question. And I've always, I remember I've got a really vivid memory of being a kid playing football, which in England, obviously most guys
Mm-hmm.
grow up playing. And I played rugby from a very young age. And I remember my parents taking me football. And I actually remember the football was going on, I don't know, 5-a-side or something. When we were maybe 5, 6, 7 years old. I remember just sitting in the grass, just not wanting to play. I had no inspiration, no desire to want to play that really at
Mm-hmm.
all. Um, I can imagine where that come from, which was probably my dad, because my dad's been playing rugby since he was a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
I was probably I was always down the rugby club and doing things. And when I was asked to
Mm-hmm.
play football, I just didn't find it enjoyable. And I started playing rugby when I was 8 years old. My parents took me ice skating with some family, and I remember looking on the wall and seeing a poster of an ice hockey player, and going home and getting a broom out of the garage and a tennis ball. And my dad must have realised what I was doing. I must have been 7 at the time. And then he
Uh-huh.
took me to Toys R Us, bought me a street hockey set, and I used to shoot a puck or ball against the garage. And they realised what I was doing, so then we went on a beginner ice hockey session, ice hockey course, and it went from there. And I've played since I was 8 years old, so I played a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy fast sports. I enjoy team sports. I enjoy physical sports, and yeah, I enjoy it. It's good fun.
Any of your teammates from maybe since you've been together like 8 years old, learned same time and then growing together
Yeah, loads of my
in the
mates.
ice hockey world?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got loads of mates. Some of which I still play with now. I had two best mates. Sort of my two best mates growing up. Playing ice hockey. One now plays in the highest level here in the UK, plays professionally.
Mm-hmm.
One of my other best mates, he retired last season. And then I've got a whole load of other mates that I've played with for years. There's not that many actually of that are still playing now. Probably that started playing when I did, like under tens,
Mm-hmm.
that were mates of mine then, that are still mates of mine now. A lot of them have retired, hung up their skates because of family or whatever else. But yeah, I'm still playing, at least this season. I am still.
So, right, ice hockey, that's a team sport.
Hmm.
How do you, what do you think? Because like personal development, it's a quite individual thing. And then you go in a team, part of the team, but then the other teammates might not be as motivated as you, or maybe not as um okay, like not as hardworking as you. I know it's a team sport, but because if there are how many people in hockey team?
Typically, it's say 17 in a squad.
17. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
there
So
or
I don't
thereabouts.
see like I don't see 17 people having exactly the same mindset as you. But then you want to be like you want to be best, and then someone's a little bit just wants to go home just for a, like, I don't know, have a little break. Or how do you manage in that situation? How do you combine your personal development skills in a team environment?
That's a really good question, right? So we were talking about personal development and how personal development is individual, and then how do you apply that in a team environment? So there's a fundamental, right? There's a fundamental. One of the fundamentals of personal development is purpose, right? And I truly believe that in order for you to achieve what you truly want in life, you need to be able to serve other people. Yeah, so I quite often refer to purpose. A purpose in life is to make other people happy. Right? Your purpose in life, however you define your purpose, whatever specific that will be to make other people happy. I truly believe we're biologically programmed to make other people happy. I say make them happy, but to be able to serve them, right, in some way. And if you want to live an inspired, fulfilled life, that's the difference, right? It's living an inspired, fulfilled life. You'll serve other people, which means that when you do a significant amount of personal development, you realize that it's not about you. I actually did a TED Talk call or TEDx Talk called "It's Not About You." By doing that, you then move into a leadership role, or you move into a leader role. Even from when I was a young kid, I was very driven, right? I was very driven. I remember I was probably under 14s playing ice hockey. It was the first time I was a captain of my team. And then I was captain of my ice hockey team, and captain for years. I've been a captain or assistant captain at a senior level for like 10 plus years. So I've always, and I found myself in a leadership role. When I was first started working, I remember I was 14 years old working in a bar. I was the head pot boy. I mean, as a pot boy, I was still given like the leadership role. A lot of that I put down to my work ethic. I've always worked really, really hard. I've always looked to deliver over and beyond. And if I look back in lots of areas of my life, when I feel particularly feel, I'm not saying I do it all the time, don't get me wrong, I'm a human being, but in lots of areas of my life, I've been able to step into a leadership role. When I was 17, I was working in a clothes shop. I became an assistant manager of a store at a young age. Then, when I was 20 years old, I managed a team of 25 guys working in the city. At 25, I ran it. So there's lots of things that I've done where I've found myself being in a leadership role because of my ability to communicate, inspire, motivate, if you want to use that word, other people, I guess. So I've been able to use a lot of my own personal development to have an impact on other people. And now I guess I'm just doing it at a slightly bigger capacity in a way that I love. Like I get to do what I love every day.
What's your most favorite quote? I wouldn't even say. What's the best qualities the leadership should have, in your opinion?
What's the best qualities of a leader?
Yeah.
Oh, good question.
I'm asking so many good questions, aren't I?
You have. I would say attitude is something that's really important. So having a positive, driven, ambitious attitude, having the ability to communicate and influence other people effectively is a great quality of a leader. I would say, what other traits does a leader have? Does a great leader have? Somebody that's willing to walk the talk, and somebody that's willing to put their hand up and admit when they've messed up as well. You know, I think that's I would say there's a few traits. There's probably more, but it's a great question you asked me on the spot.
Yeah, that's great. Because you follow Simon Sinek?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I like one of his quotes. It says, "Follow me, I'm right behind you."
I love
Just
that.
very simple.
Yeah.
Very simple, but
if you look at certain things, there's a time to be at the front, I believe, and there's a time when to be at the back. You look at wolves, the leader of a wolf pack will actually be at the back.
Mhm.
You know, making sure that the weakest wolf doesn't stray from the pack. So yeah,
Mhm.
there's lots of great examples to use, but I think that's a really a good opportunity. If you're the leader that's just charging out in front all the time, and again, I'm not saying I've nailed this as by any means, but if you're just constantly striving out in front and everybody's left behind you, then is that would you regard that as great leadership? I don't think so personally. I've been guilty of it many a time, but yeah, it's just a few examples.
Okay. Mhm. Let's talk about your 9-month celebration.
Yeah. So
What,
yeah, so
what's the
today I've
reason behind it?
yeah the
What's
reason
the re
behind it. That's again another good question. I'm gonna do like a proper reveal in 3 months' time. So I think someone's just turned up and just saying who that is.
Mhm.
But yeah, 9 months today I haven't drunk alcohol. On my 29th birthday, May the 18th last year, I decided that that was going to be the last day that I was going to drink alcohol for at least a year. So I'm a year into that so far, and
Mhm.
it's been a good experience. The reason why I decided to do it was there was something that I really wanted to achieve, and still want to achieve now. And I was realizing that drinking alcohol, because I'm not really like an everyday drinker. In fact, I can go weeks,
Mhm.
months without drinking alcohol. But when I
Mhm.
do drink, I drink to an excess. So I drink it, drink it, drink it, drink it, drink. Um,
Mhm.
and it was having a significant impact on my work. And it was because one of the things that I wanted to achieve within work or by working was enabling me to achieve one of the things that I wanted to do, and I wasn't being able to give it 100%. So
Mhm.
that was one of the reasons that decided I wanted to stop. Um, but what's really interesting is that I believe that the reason that anybody does anything to an excess, alcohol, food, drink, drugs, sex, you name it, takes anything to an absolute extreme, is because they've got a suppressed emotion that they're not dealing with. And by dealing with that emotion and dissolving that emotional charge that's really going on, enables you to stop wanting to have to mask the negative symptoms that you're feeling deep down via changing your state using some sort of chemical or instant gratification.
Do you think they know that
Do they know
whilst
that?
they do it? Yeah.
No, 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 no. I mean, I'm just going to shut this
Mhm.
door. I think I'm a pretty self-aware person, and it took
Mhm.
me a long time to realize it. And it's because I believe it's because of the amount of self-development I do, and I'm constantly trying to become more conscious, is
Mhm.
what then made me aware and made me realize it and made me decide that's the route I wanted to go down. But yeah,
Mhm.
I don't. I've become very obsessed over the last 10 years of becoming more and more and more and more self-aware. And the more and more and more self-aware, the analogy I use is a bit like peeling an onion, right? From the moment we're
Mhm.
born, we're building layers and layers and layers and layers upon ourselves, which are our belief systems ultimately. And what we're doing is a lot of the time we're putting these layers on to try and protect ourselves, whereas really what we need to be doing is peeling back the layers. You keep putting a
Mhm.
plaster over a plaster over a plaster over a plaster, you're never going to let the cut truly heal.
Mhm.
If you're wounded, um, and it's being able to actually take all of that off, deal with what it is, dissolve the underlying emotion that is
Mhm.
driving that. So I'm a big believer of a lot of the work that I do with people is don't treat the symptom, treat the cause. In the Western world, we've become so conditioned to treating symptoms, not causes. But if you
Mhm.
treat the cause, the symptoms go anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So, do you think, because when you're talking about the covering like some problems, the deep down issues, doing something completely different, but then do you think maybe if someone, not, it's coming out wrong way, the can personal development can be like kind of addiction?
I think that
It is good way, but then it might just like make people think I need to develop this day needs to be better than
So,
yesterday, and it's just very big obsession.
it's again a great question. I think, is it an addiction or is it something with significant interest? I mean, we can become it depends on where it's coming from. Yeah, so it depends on where is it coming from. If people are doing personal development, they become infatuated with wanting to achieve more. I would say, is it benefiting them? Because there's a balance, right? So a good friend of mine, Chris Branch, he owns an osteopath clinic, right? And he's a fantastic osteopath. And he's just created a program that enables people to have as much treatment as they need to get and be in the best shape they could ever be in, right? Now, just because something's unlimited, it doesn't mean that you need to be doing it 24/7. But what he talks about is having the optimum amount of treatment. So take health and fitness, for example. If you went out and ran 24/7 hours a day, 7 days a week, because you want to get fit, that's going to be detrimental to your health. Because everything in life's on a spectrum, right? You've got doing no exercise whatsoever and then doing it 24/7. But there's an optimum, there's a sweet spot. And there'll be a sweet spot I think in life, in everything, there's a spectrum. Light, sound, you name it, everything's on a spectrum. And it's about getting to that sweet spot of what's optimum. So for me personally, my optimum amount of personal development, because of the nature of how I use it on myself and how I use it with other people, might be more than some other people, right? Because I'm using it for work, to study, to be able to help other people in what I'm doing. But it's about having an optimum amount of it. If all I did was read books 24/7, it would be detrimental to me because I'm only benefiting me and I'm not achieving some of my other goals. So that's why I say it depends on the place of where it's coming from. So it depends on what the desired intention is.
Yeah. So what do you basically value, intelligence or common sense?
I think you have common sense as a result of your intelligence. I'd say intelligence.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. What absolutely excites you nowadays? What's your big project now?
A big project is the project I'm working on. So yeah, I want to empower 1 billion people. Like the work that I do every day fulfills me, inspires me. I wake up and I feel inspired by it. That's kind of my big project. Being able to sort of do what I truly want to do and benefit from the benefits that I get from it and create win-win situations. That's something that definitely has a positive impact without a doubt. What else? Yeah, that's definitely something for sure.
Because you have so many followers on social media, and you are quite open. What's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether people would say so many or not. I mean, it depends who you're comparing it to. But
yeah.
in terms of one of the things that I've always tried to do is that there's a good well, I can call him a friend now, but he was originally someone that I looked up to, a guy called Dan Meredith. And obviously, when I got into the personal development world, it's very easy to perceive these gurus, right? And you look at them and you think, my God, their life is perfect. They are flawless. They don't have any problems whatsoever. And don't. I've got my own stuff going on. I've still got my own stuff going on, the same as everybody else, right? We've all got stuff. Um, but what I loved about Dan was how open he was with it, and what that did was it actually drew me to him more than anything else. Because I realised, like, yeah, this guy I can put him on a pedestal in certain areas, but there's other areas where I can really relate to him, and that's something I've strived to do, is just be open about when things are good. And don't get me wrong, when times are really, really tough, and I've had some really, really tough times, I've been to some really low places. I've not necessarily shared it always in the moment. I've tried to share it afterwards to show what's possible, and if people find that inspiring, cool. But for me, it's more, people always talk about wanting to be authentic, right? I say people always. Lots of people talk about wanting to be authentic, and for me, in order for you to be authentic, there has to be a level of vulnerability, and that vulnerability is something that I'm willing to do. Does it scare me sometimes? Yeah, of course it scares me. Like like I say, in recent times, I've had some real challenging times. I've made decisions that haven't worked for me and have not gone the right way, and all of my biggest fears have been, I've been literally on the edge of those biggest fears. And it's choosing to take those opportunities in those times to do what needs to be done. So yeah, anyway, hopefully that
Yeah, because when you talk
question.
about vulnerability, I can't
Vulnerability.
okay, and then I think, because when you said if you share stuff afterwards, because all that emotions are quite gone, so it wouldn't come across as authentic.
That might be your perception.
Yeah, that was.
But for me, again, my personal opinion is that if yeah, I share a different opinion to that. I share a different opinion to that. So sometimes I'll say things as they are, when they are, and what's going on, and then other times, because of my own beliefs, ultimately, I'll choose to do things after the event. I'll choose to share things after the event, because then I think it can be true. What's the word that I used before? There's the difference between it being, it might come to me in a bit, but someone's asked me this question before, and I shared something that for the moment I can't think of, as to the difference between certain types of, what is it? Anyway, I can't think of it, but it's yeah. So yeah, like I say, some things, and look, yeah, there's certain vulnerabilities that I'm willing to share on social media, and there's some that I'm not at the moment. I'm not saying that I won't on stage, but that's my choice, you know, and I try and be as vulnerable as I can in any given moment, and like I say, lots of things that I go through at a later stage, I'm more than happy to share, and hopefully that can be used as inspiration for people that may be going through that challenging time. But yeah, that's kind of how I choose to do things a lot of the time.
That's great. Because that question is supposed to like follow, because I was saying you share loads of stuff, but what's something that no one would guess about you? Maybe you dance, or maybe you write poem, or there's like some hidden things that you don't share, but it doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's just like some kind of a hidden thing. What would that be that you could share?
So what's something that I do that people don't necessarily know that I do? Is that the question?
Yeah, because something that no one would guess about you.
Okay, yeah, something that people wouldn't guess about me. And this is something that I remember someone saying to me recently. They were like, I never thought that you. So I quite like classical music. Is one of the things. Like, people are like, really? So yeah, like there's certain things, particularly Ludovici, Andreas Bocelli, certain things like that. I quite like. That's something that people wouldn't generally guess about me. That would be one thing. Yeah, I guess that's one thing. I'm trying to think of like what's particularly unusual.
Doesn't have to be unusual, just people don't know. Maybe
Oh,
you
okay.
can't fry an egg.
I don't cook. That's one of them. I just don't cook.
Uh-huh.
Um,
But
I don't.
can
I don't.
you?
I can cook beans on toast. I can
Uh-huh.
chicken fajitas, but no, I can't cook. I don't enjoy
Uh-huh.
cooking, so I choose not to cook. Um, that's something. Um, I'm a really good ironer. I don't iron, but I'm a really good ironer. I can iron a really good shirt. That's something that people wouldn't necessarily know. And
Uh-huh.
I'm a bit OCD with certain things. Like if you look at my books, all of my books are
Mm-hmm.
tiered from highest to lowest. They're all can't get my word out. Compartmentalized books I've read, books I've read, books I've read, books I haven't read, books I haven't read. So yeah, I'm sort of quite OCD with certain things. I'm quite OCD with symmetry of certain things as well. But yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's just a couple of things.
How often do you revisit your books?
Go
The
back
same
and
book, probably.
not that often. Not that often. Most books I tend to read, or I have read to date once. Some read books I've read a few times. Um,
Uh-huh.
The Secret is the book that I've read the most over and over. I think I've read it 7 or 8 times, but most books I read once. Um, there's not that
Do
many
you
I've
make a
gone back
note?
to.
Do you make a note on a book whilst you're
Sometimes,
reading?
sometimes the majority of the books I read. So if I read 5 books in a month, 4 I will listen to, 1 I will read.
Mm-hmm. Mm. So what's the recommendation in a book wise? Have you got anything that you're in the middle of, or would you say that's quite a good one for if
Uh,
you going through that?
I always ask people, when people ask me book
Mm-hmm.
recommendations, I always say, well, what do you want to know? Like what, because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many books that I've read to date that are good for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's so many things that are so many books that are for certain things. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
Um,
So
so I would say, what would you? So what is something that you want to do the most at the moment, Suki, that you're most driven towards, or you most want to know about, and I can see if I can recommend a couple of books that are relevant to
mm-hmm.
what you most want to
Yeah.
do, achieve, or change.
I would like to start up a business.
Okay. Um, so I would then say, if you want to start a business, what's the best startup business book? And what's your biggest current challenge around starting that business?
It feels like everything I need to learn. Find domain name, where is the, like how the web's building a website. It's just like everything. It just feels like everything unless you got just money and they're like, do that for me, do this for me.
Okay.
So you have to know like overall everything, bits and bobs, and you need to know like that's and like kind of a list of things and then tick tick tick.
Yeah. As in, so what you mean is you don't know what your checklist is of things that you need to do in order to get to where you want
Yeah,
to get to.
exactly. And then what order it's supposed to be.
Yeah. So again, so this is really interesting, right? So I'm actually thinking out of all the books I've ever read, is there a book that I've read? Okay, the best book that I
Mm-hmm.
can think of, given what you've mentioned, is I can't remember the author. Ready, Fire, Aim.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, Fire, Aim.
Right. Okay. I'll have a look at that. Terry says, start now, get perfect later. Just
Which,
do it.
yeah, which is
Yeah.
the kind of like the essence of Ready, Fire, Aim is
Mm-hmm.
you can get to it. Don't get me wrong. There's certain things that you might want to have in place, but there is no right or wrong way of doing anything. I know people that have got really successful businesses that have never even had a website. So it's about having a
Mm-hmm.
strategy, but it's defining what that strategy is for you to be able to start that, to be able to get to where you want to get to. And I would always say that based on what are your highest desires, what are the things that you want to achieve, what are the things that are most important to you, and reverse engineer it from that.
Mm-hmm. I'll do that then. And given your repetition, given what you're doing now, you're doing so many things, and we all have 24 hours a day. How many hours do you sleep?
7 and a half hours. Yeah, most days, probably 6 days of the week, 7 hours a night. Sometimes more. Interestingly, I sleep more generally when I've not eaten as well. But yeah, I have quite intense days. I mean, what time is it now? 9 o'clock. I'm still in the office right now. I've pretty long days. Mentally, they're very. I use a lot of energy from a mental perspective, sometimes from a physical perspective. So I really understand the importance of sleep. So many people neglect their sleep. And yeah, so I know 7 hours is about bang on for me. 7 and a half hours.
So how do you cool down? How do you
open the window? How do I wind down? You mean?
Yeah, wind down. Yeah.
So my wind up, I've got a morning routine that I use. That's really important to me. It really does set the day. My evening routine, I'm really quite good. I can literally walk in, get into bed, and I can switch off like that. I have an affirmations audio that I listen to when I go to bed. I'm normally asleep before we are a minute into it. So I'm pretty good like that when it comes to switching. I don't need a big long. I'm probably going to leave here, pack up my stuff, get in my car, drive home, pretty much get straight into bed, and I could be asleep within minutes of walking, literally minutes within walking in the door most nights.
Really?
Yeah.
So you don't really read a book before you sleep or anything like that?
Sometimes I will, but yeah, but a lot of the time I don't. If anything, I've played with it a bit. Sometimes I will, but like tonight, I won't come in and read. If I had got in earlier, if I'd have got in at like 8 o'clock, then I would have maybe read, but I wouldn't tonight. I would just come in, and I've had a long weekend. I didn't go to bed till gone midnight. I didn't get in till gone midnight last night. I didn't leave a seminar until gone 2 o'clock in the morning Saturday night. Friday night was late night. The Thursday night I didn't go to bed till 1:30 in the morning. So I had quite a few late nights. So yeah, I just come in, go to bed. I don't need a wind down in that respect.
That's a very, very good skill to have. Is it skill or
is it a skill?
Sleep
maybe.
Whenever you.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe. I think it's a condition. I've just conditioned myself to do that. So is it a skill? Maybe it is. It's a skill that I haven't tried particularly hard at. I don't drink coffee most of the time. I might only ever have 3 coffees a month, maybe 4 coffees a month. So it's not like I've got loads of caffeine buzzing around on me or anything like that. I think that probably helps. But yeah, that's
yeah, that would be the thing that people don't know about you. You just sleep for 1 minute. That's just, people would say, whoa.
Yeah, that's pretty. I guess, yeah, I suppose. So yeah, it's I've always done it.
Right. Okay. Thanks very much for your time. You've been amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you for so many great questions.
It's 9 o'clock already. Yeah. Okay. And if anyone else who wants to take part of the ImPossible conversation, I'm inviting you all, and just keep in touch and come and let's have conversation.
Cool. Thanks, Suki.
Okay.
And thanks everyone who's
Thank you.
Who's watched. Whole lot of you. Take care, guys.